Hi, parents. Good afternoon. Hello, welcome. Now, I'm so excited today to have these people joining with me, and I'll introduce them in a minute. But seriously, I'm really comfortable to declare that these are the people that I love. I really love these guys, you guys. So I'm so happy that they are here with us today. Oh gosh, I hate this. How it's just randomly sometimes don't show me the comments, so I can't tell if people are watching and what they're saying and whether you guys can hear me. So give me 1 second. Let me make sure that I can actually see that this is working because we don't want to just start talking and giving away information that is not working out there. Why is it not showing that it's live? Uh,
I can see the comments.
oh, you can. So it's live and people can hear us. Um, yeah, I don't know why it does stuff to me. It doesn't like me. Okay, I can see. All right. Sorry. No, it's gone again. Um, I'm sorry.
Everyone says they can hear you clearly.
I can't see any question. Okay. So anyway, let's just start and then I'll figure it out once someone else is talking. So anyway, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about what is considered it's called custody interference, which is when the alienator deny your time to have your time with your children, deny the access to your children when it's supposed to be your time to have custody or visitation with your child. Now, so these people here uh, are really the heroes in the team of Texas 2503. And they are in Texas and they've done an amazing job to support parents out there. They have tons of experience, really in the field experience, helping a lot of parents out there to fight against this situation. And so I'm so glad that they are here with me today. We have on my screen going this way, we have Derek, we have Kimi, we have Claudia. You've seen some of them before actually on my shows in some different programs, different events. But so I'm so glad you guys. Thank you so much for being here today. And we're going to be talking about custody interference. And like I said, I did say that they are from Texas, but what we are talking about today applies really almost anywhere that you are. And they will also going to be talking about how they have set up ways that support you in your specific state. And I think there are over 30 states right now that they're working on, and they are expanding as well. So we're going to be talking about that. So I mean, I'm going to leave it up to you guys who want to pick it up. But why don't we start with like what is custody interference? And when why is it that yeah, like, is there some history behind it? Why don't we start with that?
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Petra. How you doing?
I'm good.
I can kick us off and give you a little bit of history and a little intro on Texas 2503 interference with child custody. And you have to excuse me, I'm getting over a little cold, so I'll kind of choke up at times. But in short, the group was founded by mothers and fathers that had current valid court orders in the state of Texas and were having problems exercising their access and possession time. They would go to premise, they would go on site and then try to pick up their children and then be denied and told it's a civil matter, go back to court. Well, a lot of those parents, ourselves included, had just gotten out of years of litigation. So the last thing any parent that who's financially, physically, emotionally broken, the last thing they want to hear is that they have to go back to court for paperwork for a set of orders that they just received. And these were deemed in the best interest of the child, signed off on by a judge. So um, we started researching it. We started looking into it, and you know, at first you think you're alone, and then you realize how vast this problem is. And as we dug deeper and deeper, and we got together as a team and a group, we realized this just isn't a Texas problem. This isn't just a U.S. problem. This is a worldwide issue. There is little to no enforcement for access and possession, which you know um, contributes and enables the parental alienation, the alienating behavior that the opposing party continues and gets away with because there's no consequences attached to it. So the group did some digging. We did some digging at local state laws. We talked to legislators that last touched the TPC, the Texas Penal Code, back in 2011, I think it was. This law had been on the books years and years, and it just wasn't being enforced. So we started asking all the right people, all the right questions, and turns out a lot of frontline law enforcement internal policies and procedures don't align with the Texas Penal Code. They weren't following the very same law that they were supposed to uphold and protect and help these parents out.
Thank you so much. So could you please let us know, like, what is specifically is the law? What does it say?
Sure. It's saying basically that any retention of the child, if you're denying any interference with child custody, if you're retention, withholding the child, it is a criminal state jail felony in the state of Texas. And there's penalties. It's criminal. It's a criminal offense. It's a criminal state jail felony, in short.
Great, thank you so much. So that's the things, right? For a lot of parents, it's the time that they're supposed to have the children. They have this custody order that they got from, after this long battle, usually in court, that said, okay, you can have the child at XYZ time, and here is how you get the child. Either the ex drop the child off, or you go and pick the child up, and then you go and trying to get access to your child when it's your time to have the child, and yet the other party just outright refuse to let you have the child. It's your time, and yet they blatantly ignore this document that is a legal document. They are just blatantly in contempt of court. And then the parents don't realize that, like you said, this is a criminal offense. This is not just you guys disagree with each other. This is not just a matter of the exes are fighting. No, this is a legal document, and the law clearly stated that this is a criminal matter. And by the way, even though they are talking about Texas, like I mentioned, it doesn't matter where you are. Chances are it is a criminal offense, really in most of the states in the U.S. Sometimes it is a felony, sometimes it is a misdemeanor, and there are different variation of it that will state, like if it's X, Y, and Z, then it is a felony of a certain class, and then if it's something else, like if maybe it's a repeat offense or something like that, then it's a higher level of felony, and et cetera, et cetera. So it is a criminal offense, but yet parents, when they call the police or the sheriff, these are supposed to be law enforcement agencies.
Right.
They're supposed to uphold the law, and so they're contacting the law enforcement agencies, and these people tend to tell them that, hey, we're not going to do anything about it. This is a civil matter, meaning it is not a legal, it's not a criminal offense. You should just go back to court, right? So why is this?
We found that it's an educational piece. Any licensed Texas peace officer receives this in their basic training. They're familiar. They should be familiar with 2503. It's covered in their basic training. It is, and don't get me wrong. There's some departments that are completely supportive, that understand the penal code. They understand that it involves an offense report. They work with parents to get them the proper documentation. But there is still a lot of opposition and a lot of misinformation that, their standard operating procedures, their SOPs don't supersede the state law. So they're usually taught how to handle these on their SOJT a little differently than what is supposed to happen. And, most of the agencies that we work with, both local and state, they see that, they understand. And early on, a lot of the Leo groups would say, well, we don't pursue these types of cases because the DA won't take them. And then when we started working with DA's offices, the DA would say, well, we don't see these types of cases. We don't get them from law enforcement, so we really don't prosecute them. So they were kind of pointing the finger at each other and doing, well, the he said, she said thing. So that's one of the things that the group does. They bring education and awareness. We've talked at police chief meetings. We've met with different departments. We set a lot of meetings behind the scenes, and we meet with their top brass and authorities and say, look, here's the data for your area. here's the problem, here's how much resources you're tying up and utilizing on visitation and custodial exchanges. Let us help you, let us help you in this aspect and allow you to get more time and resources back to your department. If we feel that if the frontline law enforcement was to have a serious conversation with the opposing party and say, look, there's some serious consequences with this. You can get in some serious trouble. It is a criminal state jail felony. We just want you to follow the court order that's already been deemed in best interest of the child by a judge. Go ahead and turn Timmy over to Mr. Berry, and let's be on our way. And if that conversation was had, rather than it's a civil matter, you got to go back to court, I really think a large percentage of these types of cases would be nipped in the bud. Now, I fully understand there's some extreme scenarios out there where the alienator just doesn't care. They're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to have bad behavior. They're not going to try to co-parent. But the common cases where the everyday exchanges, first, third, and fifth and whatnot, those probably could be resolved by a little bit of education.
I think we have also George on the line. George, why don't you, is your camera working? Why don't you join us? I want to make sure that the parents can see all of you guys. So yeah, so that you point out something is so important, which is there's a lack of truly lack of awareness that unfortunately somewhat top down. So they don't provide the right training for the law enforcement. They don't have the procedure. Hi Josh, awesome, we can see you now, great. And so we have these officers that were not told that this is part of the job essentially. So there's a lack of that awareness. And so this is one of the things that you guys do, right? You go out there and you talk to these officers. And by the way, you guys in the audience, it's crazy because honestly, when I first heard about these guys, a fair while ago, and I heard, they were talking about, they talking to the police, and I actually thought, oh, no way, this is not going to make any difference. And then when I started seeing the actual differences that they do make, and it does change. It's not something that can change overnight. It does take time. And the team, I mean, they're working so hard. It's a small team. We have a lot of places to cover, so they're doing the best that they can, and they really need a lot more resources and support, you guys. So if you wanted to support them, definitely look out for them and help in any way that you can. But these guys, I mean, they still have their normal lives. They are parents, and they still have to work their full-time job while they go and support everyone else. So definitely trying to support these guys. But yeah, so back to the topic, which is there's a lack of awareness, and so these guys and I think there's also that element where they go, well, this is full of drama. It's between two people that broke up, between two exes. I don't want to get involved, and it's so easy for them to think, well, you don't know anything, so it's easy for me to just go, yeah, go away, like this is a civil matter, right? So there's that element of the police thinking, yeah, I'm going to make it easy for myself. I don't want to deal with this, right? And so this is when it comes in, when it's becomes so important for parents to stand up, to understand the law and stand up, and also having, especially if they have advocates along with them, right? Do you guys want to talk about some of these situations, how it works?
Yeah, Petra, I'd like to follow up on some of the stuff with Derek. So Derek and I are the quintessential yin yang here. And I really, I want to allow some of the parents in our comments who are frustrated to recognize that I have the same level of frustration that they do. And I don't have the same, there's a lack of education feeling that Derek does. My position is this, and my experience has been this. I happen to have an experience with you and Claudia at the airport, and there was a very seasoned police officer who was receiving our 2503 violation. And as an advocate, we have things that always stand out to us that mark a period for us in our time. And I will never forget that my 19-year-old daughter was called to the scene of a child trying to leave the state of Texas unaccompanied, and she was doing everything that she could to stop that from happening. And the 19-year-old child, for better, stops a police officer, a seasoned, not a young person, a seasoned police officer, pulls up her phone, reads Texas Penal Code 2503 directly to the officer, and tells her that he will not enforce that. And she gets irate because as American citizens, as Americans, as a country, we count on our laws to protect everyone. And if you are a personality type who is just dismissive, it will be your rights that will soon be taken too. And I am not a dismissive, turned a blind eye to somebody who is just in blatant disregard for the law as it is written. Each one of those officers took an oath. And if they were new, and if this gentleman was, 22 years old and brand new to the force and he didn't understand it, I could give him a pass. But in my experience, dealing with several of the seasoned officers that I've dealt with, I believe that there is an intentional disregard for this law. And we all have our own theories as to why that is, but my position, it is direct and intentional. As direct and intentional as it is, if you see a crime happening and you do nothing to stop it, you yourself are liable for that crime. That is what these police officers are now engaging in. As a result of their permissiveness and allowing the law to be broken, they are now a part of the criminal activity. They have now criminalized themselves by virtue of not stopping criminal activity. And I just feel very, very, very strongly that our world that we live in right now, it is up to us to protect every child. And if we see a child that is coming to harm because we are not doing anything, I myself would include myself in a guilty party. And so if I want to look to hold somebody else to that standard, I hold myself to the standard. And so to you parents out there who are watching and you are very, very angry that you have, 10, 12, 18, 20, felony interference. Should that be happening? No. But do we totally understand your frustration? Yes. So I just wanted to follow up on that.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And George, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, for all the parents that are watching, okay, so let's just get to the meat and potatoes of all of this. All right. We've done a lot of research in this law. So we know it's a felony. It's a state jail felony, up to 2 years here in the state of Texas. There's a reason why it's a felony. There's a reason why it'll always stay a felony. But what you parents need to know, it's not whether the officer wants to enforce the law or not. It's not up to them. The law was legislated at the legislature, right? The legislator legislates laws. It goes through the House process, it goes through the Senate, then it's signed by the governor. So it's not up for the department, the district attorney, the lawyers. It's not up to any of those people to tell you, I'm not going to enforce it. And that's where our group is a little different. Our group is a little bit more bull-nosed. We don't take no for an answer. If we start reading something, we research it and then we send the information out. So in this case, it's a state jail felony. So if they tell you, hey, look, we don't enforce interference with child custody. Well, I'm not asking you to enforce interference with child custody. I'm asking you to enforce the felony. You can't lower it. You can't disregard a felony. And that's what a lot of parents don't understand, is that a lot of these parents, they're used to being told, no, you can't file that. Go hire an attorney. And a lot of these parents haven't researched it like we have. They haven't gone out on a loop and talked to legislators. They haven't talked to the legislator who legislated it. We have. We sat with the Texas District and County Attorneys Association, with the Texas governor's office, the attorney general's office there, and 6 DAs from across the state of Texas, and then the DA's association at the state capitol. And they confirmed it's a felony. So if these officers tell you, well, we don't enforce interference with child custody, it's a civil matter, the first thing to do to combat that is say, well, I'm not telling you to tell me what you want to enforce. I'm telling you, I want to file a felony complaint. You cannot deny me a felony complaint. So now what you've done is you've circumvented the interference with child custody and went through the felony option. And so when you start looking into the felony, the criminal rule, excuse me, let me back up. The Texas, I'm having
That's
a
okay.
moment.
Hey, George, while you're thinking about that though, right in that step where George was talking about how you go around them and you ask, I would like a felony complaint. If that particular officer tells you, well, I'm not going to give you one, go from that point and say, I want your supervisor's name, because you then take their denial of what George was saying about acquiring the felony complaint directly to a supervisor. Okay. Then you get to the supervisor and you spend 45 minutes haggling with the supervisor, insisting, I want my felony complaint. I want my felony complaint. I want it. You do not take no for an answer.
Are you
Don't take no for an
and
answer.
also put, are you denying me? Now record it. Record it with we've had members go out there and have their phone. Are you denying me, sir, of this felony offense? Is that what you're doing? This is a felony. Are you going to deny me? And most of the time they're going to backtrack. They're going to tell you, no, I'm going to give you a report. No. I want a felony report, an offense report. So they're going to tell you everything and anything to get you out of their face. And what we have noticed when we have gone through these things, and someone posted just a minute ago, I wish we would have had this information months ago. We're going to be 4 years old in April. And so we've been giving information regularly. I know we come out here and we have these Zooms. I appreciate your Zoom tonight. But, in the Chad Reed case, I know that's a huge issue right now. We as a group have talked about it. We have things planned that we're going to do. And you asked earlier, what does the law say? The law says retention in violation of a court order or judgment, including temporary orders. It was established in 1973. It was last legislated in 2011. So it's been legislated through all these years. Now, a lot of these officers will tell you it's only when they go across state lines. Okay, well, show me in the law where it says that, because it doesn't. The law says retention in violation of a court order or judgment. Legislative intent is how the law is written. There's case law, there's state case law and federal case law that says how it's written is how it's supposed to go, right? The officer doesn't get to interject his opinion, or this is what I believe, or we've never done it this way, or our policy says we don't do that. You don't get to do that. Only legislators get to do that. So when these parents go out there, make sure you record. We always tell you to record. They're recording. They have body cameras. You can do the same thing. So record. Have your
Yeah, I want to
interactions.
clarify a little bit about that. So Texas is a one-party consent, meaning that you are part of this conversation and you only need yourself to give consent, permission to record. That's why with Texas, and they are in Texas, that's why they can just with the phone out and record it. Now, in other states, you wanted to be careful because if you are in the public space, which is where it's reasonably expect that there's no privacy, then you can record it. But in other states, there are certain states that you need two-party consent, meaning that everyone that is being recorded must give permission for you to record. So just be careful with that. Just want to double check so that parents don't want to just because if you in a two-party consent place and you are in a private place, like let's say you went to your ex house to pick up the child, which means it's in a private location, and yet you pull the phone out and you film, you actually commit a felony. So I wanted to just clear that up. Okay, sorry, please continue.
Yeah, and then George, I'm just gonna go through the steps that you just highlighted. So you call the police, you want a felony interference. If the deputy that arrives denies you, you're going to ask for the supervisor. You're going to be recording the entire time. Let's say, for example, you finally get the screws tightened hard enough and the supervisor says, fine, I'll give you a felony interference with child custody. Great. That has a whole path that goes along with it, and we'll go over that. But let's say that you're denied. You continue to be denied a felony interference charge by the supervisor. What we suggest that you do at that point is file an internal affairs investigation that preceding Monday. So the preceding Monday, you're going to call internal affairs. You're going to ask them what their process is to file an internal affairs investigation. And you want an investigation done to figure out exactly why that department denied you that, that felony interference charge.
And let me
go ahead.
interject real quick. When you say that, you're absolutely right. Okay, so now on the federal level, the federal law is misprision of a felony, which means that you see a felony happen and you don't say anything or you don't report it, right? In the state of Texas, it's offense within view. That's also a charge. So when you go to internal affairs, you need to say, hey, look, this is a felony. I didn't legislate it. You didn't legislate it. The legislator did. So as I know, it says it's a felony. You don't have your opinion on it. You're supposed to write up the felony and send it up to the district attorney's office. Well, the district attorney's not going to take that charge. Well, that's not for you to say. You don't work for the district attorney. You work for the state of Texas, or you work for the state of whatever, California, Nebraska. Your job is to uphold the laws that the legislators have legislated. And this is a felony. And I'm telling you that misprision of a felony or an offense within view, if you witness a felony, you're supposed to report it. So that's where you get into the internal affairs portion. So when they don't want to write and they don't want to write it up, let's call your supervisor. Let's call everybody out. Let me have all your badge numbers. And we're not here to make enemies with police officers. We're not here looking to get officers in trouble. We're not even here to make parents felons. Our simple objective is to get the child to be turned over, right? So go ahead, Kimmy.
Yeah,
So I think Derek raised his hand. Did you want to jump in, Derek?
And then how do
Yeah.
you raise your hand? Because I don't have a raise hand button, and it makes me look weird. So just so you know, I don't have a raise my hand button.
They
FYI.
took it out
Reaction.
for you specifically, so you got to actually use your real hand and hold it up till we're done talking.
I think Kimmy's still fired up. Even if she had to raise the hand button, she wouldn't be using it. She just jumped in. She's a pistol. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Petra. Just to reiterate, for all the parents in different states, for all the advocates in different states that want to mimic the process, one of the things that the team has come together and done and accomplished is we've outlined these processes that we're talking about in discussion. I know we're going through a lot of information really fast, but we have a blueprint process for our parents when they're out on premise. So if you yourself or an advocate in another state, we could provide that documentation and you can look at it to make sure your state laws align with the process or how you can tweak it to be beneficial for your particular state. For example, you mentioned the one-way party consent in the state of Texas. Again, as long as you're taking part of that conversation, you can record. That's not the same for other states. We understand that. So that part of the process may change and vary a little bit for you guys for different states. We have a data and collection for public records request process, which is also something the team does. Claudia does an amazing job at that part. And we have a legislative team. So we have professionals from all walks of life, a diverse group that are well-spoken, well-educated on the matter, and that can go to the Capitol to testify and to legislate for certain bills, who works with different legislators, House reps and senators and so forth. So all this is available. We'll cover a lot of information this evening, but don't get overwhelmed. You know, I know some folks are probably taking notes. We have these outlined for you guys to reference.
Awesome. And Claudia, I think you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize, you see how we work together? The thing that brought us together is that we had the same issue. We all had the same issue. I met George at a town hall event with the legislator. I think he met Derek at the courthouse. They met Kimmy somehow on at the courthouse or planning an event, or she joined the page. So this was what brought us together, and we've been working together since. This is what has made the movement in Texas so strong, is that we just work with each other, and we meet very often. We stay in touch very often. I mean, I'm talking about daily, and we get along really well. And so when we have our little skill sets that we bring, which whether mine is, you know, open records or public records request, or George doing the history, or Derek and I meeting with certain local officials, or Kimmy helping parents along the way, we all work together, and that's what has made us so strong. And anytime that one of us goes through this process, we share it so that we all know it, we all can spread it around, and we educate parents consistently. And that's why we're so strong. We want to share this with everybody.
I wanted to add something though. It's so important is that, and Kimmy kind of mentioned this earlier, is that for a lot of parents, part of it is the lack of awareness and lack of understanding, and they're not being informed, is that parents feel like they don't have the rights. They don't have any rights. So they don't stand up to their rights. And then the other thing is that when they're being pushed back, parents are quick to give up, because I mean, there's a reason why we became alienated parents. Part of it is because we got used to being abused psychologically. So now when you go out there and here are the people in uniform that tell us that, you know, we have no rights, that we should just go home, it's very easy for parents, especially you're so stressed out, you're experiencing this trauma of losing your children and everything else, and then potentially false allegation of abuse and everything else. So it's so easy for you to just give up, right? But what I see in these guys that you're seeing on the screen here, these are relentless people. They just don't give up, and and it's incredible to see it. So I want parents in the room to know that you have power. You have so much more power than you realize. And if you just don't step down, you just don't give up. I'm not talking about being aggressive. It's about putting your foot down, but completely polite and respectful, but never give up your right. That can go so far. And seriously, these people, if you see them, it's crazy how amazing they do their job. Like, they just don't give up at all. I've seen, like Kimmy mentioned about an incident at the airport. I mean, it's incredible for me to watch, you know, they being pushed down and turned down, and they just don't give up. And I've seen many other situations as well where they just and I've seen, you know, we talking about legislation, I've seen, you know, people turning them down so many times. And these people, they just keep putting their foot down. I've seen video that Kimmy helped parents, and she's being shut down, and she just, no. Are you refusing to protect me? Are you refusing to protect the parents? Are you blatantly ignoring the law? Are you denying my right? Right? These are statements that very simple, yet very effective. Right? George, I saw your hands up. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so you're right. This
of course I'm right.
Yeah. So this all came about, and let me just say, the reason it was a civil matter was because before 1973, this is when the divorce rate started going up. Title 4D started kicking in, and everyone decided that, you know, when we split parents up, you know, we can make money from this. And so the reason why was because the UCCJEA, the Universal Child Custody Jurisdiction Enforcement Act, hadn't been, I guess, legislated yet. That's a federal law. So back then, they didn't know what a missing child was. They didn't know what interference with child custody was until the federal law. And if you're new to the group, the way federal law and state laws work is that they have to parallel each other. They have to be equal to or better. The states have to equal the federal law, or it has to be better than the federal law. And so what happens is whatever the federal law says, the state, again, has to make it equivalent or better. So what happened was that they made it a felony in the federal side, right? So all the states, when children are being abducted, taken over state lines, that's what the UCCJEA is for. So what happens is that for years, since 1973, they were always told, this is a civil matter. So for years, it's traditionally been like this. It's a civil matter. It's a civil matter until Texas Team 2503 came and says, why is it a civil matter? So one of the most important things I wanted to point out in this is that what you need to do, and all these parents, and this is advice from all of you, to all of you parents that are watching, all 50, okay? Team 2503 did one thing. We separated our issue from the issue that we're talking about. I have interference with child custody issues. Derek, Kimmy, Claudia, everyone else that's in our group. We understand that. But if we kick that ball and we feel sorry for ourselves, oh, Christmas is horrible this year. It's okay to feel like that, okay? What are we gonna do to fix the problem? You crying on Facebook saying, and we get it. There's people from different emotional, mental states on where they are in their custody issues, right? I get it. But you have to learn, and Derek can talk about emotional control and mental control. You're gonna have to learn to separate all of that. You're gonna have to learn to say, hey, you know what? I wanna focus on the big problem. So what we have done, instead of me telling my problems to Derek and to Kimmy and to Claudia and to everyone in the group, what we have done is we have attacked the problem itself. And now there's 5 of us consistent. Well, there's more than 5 of us, but just here in the group, there's 5 of us here on this Zoom that is working for that problem. So whether you're on the parental alienation side, the 2503 side, interference with child custody, you're on the CPS side, find other parents. And instead of voicing your problems on Facebook and being emotionally charged up and wanting to do a class action and you want to do this, go find 5 people or 10 people, 15 people that are having problems with CPS. Find 15 people that are having problems with parental alienation. And instead of talking about your problems, go after the objective of how to get to the root of the problem. Start looking for public information requests. Start looking for federal grant money. Where's this money going? How is it being spent? How should it be spent, right? Because now you're getting into the root as to why these things exist. And that's what we did, is we had to go all the way back to the history of 2503, when it started, who started it, why it was started, who touched it last. Okay, now we wouldn't have all this information if each of us were just sitting and moping about, well, what do we do, right? We started as a team starting to question. So when you make your groups and you're going out there, make sure you tell people, hey, look, this is an objective-based group. We're going to hit these little tier steps, till we get to the top. Because if we bring the system crumbling down, it's going to rain down on all of us and all of our children, right? There's no, if you sit there and you kick your problems, what is it? Together we stand and separate we fall, or something like that, right? So you have to, so you have to find a group, find your own niche, and figure out where you fit, what you're good at. Claudia's great at public information, right? Derek's good at speaking. I just kind of bop around, and Kimmy's the looks, right? Kimmy's the looks that.
And today is a perfect example of the looks.
So
Oh
Kimmy is one of those people that I'm scared if she has another phone, because with one phone, and oh my God, like how many numbers she called when someone turned her down, the next number is ringing and the next number is ringing. I don't even know if she has another phone, what will happen, seriously. And she was 10 people at once, seriously, it's scary. She was sweet and gentle and shy and appreciative and aggressive and confident, and it's scary. But anyway, you guys sort of mentioned a little bit about open record requests a few times. Like, can we explain a little bit what this is about, and what are we getting so that parents know what are we talking about?
Sure. So I started pulling public records because I wanted to be able to see how many others are going through this in the area. How big is the problem? So what I started doing was pulling the public records on how many, and it was just may have been a small time frame, but how many of these visitation violations that's what we've learned that they call them when police refer these to civil matters. How many of those are happening? How frequent? And we know that with a standard possession order, you get your child on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th. So then once we started pulling that data, we did it over 4 years. We did it before COVID, we did it during COVID, we did it after COVID, and we're still doing it. So come January 1st, we'll have 4 years of data. But we collect it just to show a pattern of how many of these cases we have. In San Antonio, it's about an average of 1,000 a month. Only a handful are written up as 2503. We've also pulled records from the district attorney. Of those handful, how many of them actually are prosecuted? And we've learned along the way why we could see records on some, why we don't see records on the others. And so we started doing this, and it started we started sharing the way that we requested, so other parents can pull the same records in other counties and other cities so that they can have the data. So when we go to legislators, we have this. This actually came from an agency. It was provided to us. So this is how big the problem is. And when they take a look at the numbers, it's astounding. 1,000, at an average, 1,000 children a month are denied access to the other parent. I mean, imagine that. Now, how many of those do you think lead to parental alienation or abuse of the child? So we started pulling that data, we collect it, we share it amongst ourselves. We continue to pick it up on certain events like Father's Day. We did a Father's Day project. We're going to do another one here soon for the New Year's. And so we just constantly are collecting this information, and parents can do it whatever state you're in. It's public records. It's really helpful if you understand how to do a public records request. We've created so many templates. I've helped parents in Illinois do it. They're collecting the data. Same thing in California. You have access to this as a citizen to pull the public records. Not only that, but you can also pull their policies, police department's policies on how they enforce felonies. This is no different than any other felony like burglary or assault. So if they have a process or a procedure and how they enforce that, they shouldn't be skipping over 2503. That applies to this as well. This is no different. And like George said, legislative intent is how the law is written. You don't pick and choose what felonies you're going to enforce. It's already been legislated. This is a felony. So again, that's just something that I harp on, is the public records, to have the data to show the legislators of how big a problem this really is. And we've used it. We really have.
So I want to get on Claudia's tail feathers here on this. And that is Claudia just said, you don't get to pick and choose the laws that you enforce. Okay. There are a couple of mistakes that I made very early on, and that would be one of them. So we all think that we attract more bees with honey. Let's all just be nice and play fair. And if I just treat my ex kindly, oh, well, they'll just do the right thing. If you are just starting a divorce and that's your position, that will be a fatal flaw. Okay, number one. Yes, be kind, be firm in your rights. Do not ever let anybody slight your right. You see that a pattern of behavior that Claudia mentioned earlier with respect to the records, they call it a visitation violation. There is no such thing as a visitation violation. The term visitation violation was invented so that we could minimize a felony interference charge, okay? So if any of you know anything about narcissistic abuse, one of the main tactics that they use is minimization, okay? Do not allow yourself to fall victim to minimization. Oh, well, I'm just going to let Johnny skip visiting you this weekend. And you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be nice and let that happen. Do not let it happen once. It will be an error on your part. Do not let anybody minimize your visitation, your interference with child custody felony charge for a visitation violation. Minimization in any capacity is abuse, and if you allow it, it will increase.
So we do and I'm thinking about doing one tomorrow. So those that are watching, I guess I can do one tomorrow early, about 9 o'clock. But usually we have state and federal laws. And what I've done is if you join our group, Interference with Child Custody, I don't know if Claudia put it in the chat or the comments, but if you join our group and you go to either the announcements or the file section and you look for number 4, state and federal laws, what you'll do is you'll be able to pull up the laws that we have found. And I highlighted them and I put bold letters under specific words. I put certain things together, and I kind of made it. And I also made a YouTube video on it, which explains what your rights are. And I think a lot of parents, and I'm trying to get away from custodial and non-custodial parent, not because it's degrading, but because you start looking into the family code and there's not really a definition for what a custodial parent is and what a non-custodial parent is, right? So when you get into the law, and I've got it written, everything highlighted. Again, legislative intent is how the law is written. So if you have a reading, if you can read at a high school level, I mean, you can understand most of these words. But one of the things in the Chad Reed case, for those that are watching, because I posted this in the Chad Reed section, was that one of the things that they said was that these parents, they're non-custodial parents. Well, there's nothing different between, in most cases, and this is just most cases, this isn't in every case, but in most cases, there's not a real big difference between a custodial parent and a non-custodial parent. In a joint managing, okay, that's what legal custody is a legal managing conservator. So if you're joint managing, you do have the same rights. Now, a lot of people equate that to 50-50 parenting, and that's absolutely wrong. It's not. But in the Texas Family Code, there isn't anything that says that these are the rights of the custodial parent. They have the right to deny that. So in this, and I'll just read some of it, right? Child custody determination. I was arguing with a lady last night on Facebook, and she was saying that Chad didn't have the right to go to that house or the business because the court order says that the child was supposed to be picked up either at school or at mom's house. And one of the things I was telling them is that child custody determination, as defined by the Texas Family Code, means visitation with respect to a child. So at visitation time, you become that custodial parent. The child comes over to you, right? Now you get into what visitation means: possession and access. It's all highlighted for you. And it also has what's the best interest of the child: possession and access to the child. But the rights and duties during periods of possession, and this is where I tried to educate that woman last night, was that rights and duties during periods of possession, and this is where you get into missing childs and all that stuff here in the state of Texas. Rights and duties during periods of possession is section 153.074 of the Texas Family Code. Unless limited by the court, a parent appointed as a conservator, joint managing, or a child has been following of a child has the following rights and duties during periods of possession: the duty for care, control, and protection. So you parents that are watching at your custodial, and this is just for Texas because I don't know all the laws for other states, but if you're here in Texas, the rights and duties during periods of the possession 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever time you get your child supposed to be turned over, you become that custodial parent, right? You have the right for care, control, and protection. And you need to use those words, care, control, and protection. And you need to tell these officers, okay, this is my period of possession. The court has already rendered these orders in the best interest of the child. And I have the right, the legal right, for care, control, and protection. Now, if I don't know where my child is, the child's not here at 6 o'clock. I have every right to protect that child. I have every right to make a felony report. I have every right to call the police. That's just some of the things that I have in when you join our group. Again, you can go and I have it all highlighted. We have our YouTube channel. It's on our YouTube channel, but you can go to number 4, state and federal laws. It's about a 10-minute video. It's easy to follow along. And again, if you want to print it out, again, tomorrow morning, I might just go over it. It's usually like an hour and a half video. And for those parents that are, tomorrow's the 28th. So I think at noon, I know I got to go and pick up. So tomorrow, if any of you parents are interested, I can hold a Zoom live and we can go over what your rights are here in the state of Texas for picking up your child tomorrow and how to file an offense report.
So I just wanted to piggyback on that a little bit and let everybody know some of the things that we can immediately do to assist you. So here's a couple of the things that we already do. So let's say you're just starting the divorce process and you don't even know where to go. Should I get an attorney? We can help you with that. If you're knee deep and you're fighting for your child and you're doing this interference stuff and you just want some help navigating where you are, we can help you with that. If you find that you're not one of the super motivated people like George is describing to round up 5, 10, 15 people to help you where you are, but you think you could do something smaller, our group is always looking for people who can do smaller to larger tasks. If you feel like you want to, help with a Facebook page, or if you want to help with our website, or if you want to help with anything like that, let us know. We're happy to take any of the assistance that we can if there's a way you want to be of assistance. And please reach out if you feel like sometimes people, not all of us have been able to control our post-traumatic stress disorder. The parents who are typically in this group have emotional problems because of the situation that you have been through. And I am extraordinarily empathetic to that plight. And if you just feel like every time I go in and I have to have a chat with a lawyer, or I have to have a chat with the police, I can't hold it together and I can't advocate for myself, give me a call and I'm happy to be your calm voice for you. I just did that with another one of our members. I went to his first meeting with a lawyer and it went very, very well. I am happy to help in that way, in that capacity, if I can. So I wanted to let you know some of the resources that our group has available.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Really, I think this is really helpful for parents. I wanted to kind of walk through a little bit, sort of back a little bit for parents to keep track of what we have covered so far, because we covered a lot of things. So for parents to, one, become informed of what the law is for their state regarding custody interference, but also regarding, police responsibilities, as well as to do with the right to recording, trying to get informed with all these aspects of the things. The second thing is to not letting other people step on you, really just stand up for your rights. Become informed of your rights and then stand up for your rights. So when this happens, call the police and then, or call the sheriff, or the law enforcement agency that's appropriate for where you are. And then when they do turn up, and if they refuse to help you, this is a time that you put your foot down, make sure that you inform them of what is the appropriate code, criminal codes in your state or your jurisdiction. And then if they say no, you still continue to put your foot down. But the goal at that immediate point in time is to get an offense report instead of an incident report. Normally, the police will give you an incident report because they consider this a civil matter, which is incorrect. So you have to insist on getting an offense report. An offense report is to do with criminal matters. An incident report is just stuff that you have an argument with some friends or people or whatever. It's just
Yeah, it's just for
dispute.
documentation. And if I can just jump in real quick, depending where you live, state, agency, it's different. And that was part of what we were trying to legislate, was we were trying to get everything across the board notated or written up correctly. That was one of the bills, is we wanted to standardize the reporting. So those that are watching, when you talk about offense and incident reports, it, like, just in Harris County Sheriff's Department, all their reports are offense reports. Do they ever go anywhere? No. Right. So make sure, if talk to your officers, ask them, hey, look, I don't know what kind of report I need, but I want a report that goes before a detective that will go to a district attorney's office. I want a felony report. I don't want an incident. Some people call them incident. They call them informational. They'll call them whatever, case reference reports, whatever. So what you want to do is you want to make sure, if you don't know what it's called, you can start off with an offense report. And they may say, hey, we don't write informational reports. We don't do incident reports. To make it real simple, just say, hey, I want a report that where it's going to go to a detective, and then if found that someone has broken the law, I want it going. I want a felony report to be sent to the DA's office.
Right. And just to kind of piggyback off what George said, normally when you request this offense report, I normally kind of refer to it in general, a felony report. Whatever type of report that's going to escalate to an investigator, then and escalate to the state attorney, the district attorney, the prosecutor. That's kind of how the flow of how that works. But you need to also understand, when they take an offense report, at some time you're going to have to provide your statement, because this is an actual crime. So if they're not calling you back to get your statement, that's where you need to get yourself involved in following this process. You also are allowed to submit evidence. So if you have a court order, it's better to have an extra copy that you can provide that is flagged. The pages are flagged on where it says that you're supposed to have the child at 6 p.m. on the 28th of December. You can actually have it highlighted. You need to have an extra copy, whether it's already uploaded in your, ready for your email. It's better to have that, to have some form of documentation that you requested the child, which will show the willingness of the other party to not comply. You said, pay per the court order, I will be exercising my right and picking up Johnny at 6 o'clock at our court order designation or meeting spot. You need to have that in writing. And then you need to seek that report. And the way it works is they will request a statement. They will also request a statement from the suspect. And just to highlight, when you report a crime, you are the victim. The other person is a suspect. So when they do this investigation, that's what you're titled as until it gets through and they find, like, we didn't have enough evidence, or it gets through the DA and says, yes, we have everything that we need. You need to do your part. And is there anything else that would be helpful? Can I provide anything else? I had a witness with me. Can I list that person? Can they testify? Do I need a statement? That's when it's your job to make sure that you're diligently following this along. Otherwise, it is going to fall through the cracks. And then you're going to say, well, they never called me. Well, did you make that attempt to call them? And so part of us going through this is us becoming very diligent, being calm but assertive, and we question things. We write down badge numbers, we write down names, we'll even write down the vehicle ID number in case we didn't get a card. But we always get some point of contact to follow up with. That way we can see this process through. And another thing, oftentimes people wonder, well, why didn't my attorney tell me about this? If they were advising me, why didn't they tell me that this was a felony? Well, oftentimes they don't know themselves because they're family attorneys. This is a criminal penal code. And another big reason they're not telling you, and I'll be perfectly honest, and we're all aware, is that the money continues to flow in the family court system. If they told you this option, this would totally eliminate lining their pockets with all the money that you're putting into their pockets. So why are they going to give you the easy out? Why are they going to tell you have to file a motion for enforcement when I can easily file a felony against the other parent for retaining the child? So that, in all honesty, that's what it is. It comes down to the money and keeping it in the family court system. So, this is an option. Nowhere does it say that you have to seek civil remedy before criminal remedy. So you have this option. My own attorney didn't tell me this. And when I met George was harping on this is it. And I'm like, I don't know, George. But, as I learned, it is very true. This is a crime. This is a penal code. Now, there are certain states, depending on your state, you have to read the language, that this is going to be a little bit harder to enforce, because in the state of Texas, a child is defined as any individual under the age of 18. A lot of parents will say, hey, well, they leave it up to the child. The child doesn't want to come. How do I force that? They said, I don't need to make the child. You need to look up what the definition of a child is, or a minor, in your state, because it's not up to the child. The contract, the order is between you and the other parent, not you and the child. And not encouraging, that is interference. So just a thought, just something to pick up when you're researching your state penal codes is look up some of these definitions in your family code.
Reverend, yeah.
Yeah, Claudia touched on a lot of good things and some key topics. Excuse me. First and foremost, if you're an advocate or parent, make sure that you are following the order, the current valid court order that is in front of you. If you yourself are violating that order, it is going to be tenfold to try to get any enforcement action and any help going further down the road. So make sure your own backyard is clean. Make sure you're on point. Any dealings and transactions, whether it's with frontline law enforcement or records request or a Zoom video phone call or dealing with other advocates and parents, make sure you are always professional and businesslike in your transactions. There's a time and a place for the emotion. We're not saying that you can't be emotional. We're not saying that you have to, bottle it up. We had some beautiful testimony during legislation from different parents. They got up there and they told their personal story, and it was impacting. Some folks heard them. They got their message. They were able to convey that message. But when you're dealing with frontline law enforcement, part of the blueprint process that we encourage parents to do is to remain businesslike and professional. Don't be in your face with the camera. Don't try to tell the officer their job. Everybody answers to somebody. There is a hierarchy. There's a next step in the complaint process. We want advocates and parents alike to build that complaint process, to document it and document it to a T, to a letter. So you don't give anybody a way out. You're going to hold them accountable in the future for their actions, for what they did or didn't do, whether they didn't follow the law, whether they didn't give you an offense report, whether they're refusing to take the felony. Anywhere along the process, if you follow those steps and you remain businesslike and professional, they're going to take you seriously. You're not labeled the crazy emotional parent. You're not out just to get your a bitter ex. This isn't about retaliation. This is about following the law. This is about our children. And so they don't have to go through this. We want to better the process. So always follow your orders, encourage good behavior, be professional, businesslike, and document all throughout the entire process.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So we walked through, and I love what Claudia and you just added as well, which is, you get the report, but then you do have to follow through if you want the DA office to pick it up. You really have to be your own advocate in this sort of situation. And if you need advocates behind the scene for your case, then reach out to these guys. Just like Kimmy was saying, they are here for you guys. And then not only you pursuing the abuser, the alienators, but at the same time, like they've been talking about, is that when you have a police officer that's not helping you, you also need to pursue that police officer with internal review process, so that it's not about getting them in trouble, but putting your foot down so that they will do their job for you especially in the future.
So
I mean,
one thing I wanted to follow up with Derek was that, is it the case that they will always follow through and do what they're supposed to do? And the case is no. The case is no. So like we've seen in the Chad Reed case, where the gentleman still hasn't been arrested, and it's because there was it's a civil matter. That has happened. So in my own instances, I brought 5 felony charges, and all of them were discounted by the local special victims unit. They brought them, they got them all together, they put it all together, they compiled it, they said, come do an affidavit. And then it was, well, you've got a civil case going on, so we've decided we're not going to take it up. That might happen. But where that will pay off for you later is that the documentation that you're going to need to keep, because nobody here knows what the future is going to hold with respect to this entire movement, with respect to your own child advocacy, with respect to your own child and your child's relationship. And if you have meticulously organized and kept all of your documentation together, who's to say that there's not a situation that doesn't come up within the next 24 months that says anybody who was denied something criminal because of this Chad Reed case, because there was a civil litigation going on, we're all getting together and we're all do something about it. You don't know where some of the paperwork, some of the recordings, I know it's very, very, very difficult to manage paperwork, audio recordings, video recordings, PDF files, Word files, but you have to figure out a way to keep it organized and get it organized.
I did want to touch on one thing. When you're reporting this, like Kimmy said, she had 5 and they didn't pursue them. The statute of limitations on felonies in the state of Texas is 3 years. So a lot of parents wonder, hey, well, how long do I have to report this? You need to check your statute of limitations in your own state. I helped a parent in Ohio, and an officer told her 3 months later, it's too late. And I ended up looking up the statute of limitation in Ohio, and it was 6 years. So this officer didn't even know he's providing false information to the public. She was very discouraged, and all it takes is just researching the information yourself. And then when you file that complaint, she said, hey, this is what an officer told her. And they're like, what? That's not true. So you see, you have to question everything that they often tell you. Officers are there, and they're good people, but oftentimes they're overworked, they're undertrained. And a lot of these issues of them telling us it's a civil matter, it's just a bad learning habit. It could be a rookie riding along with the senior officer, and the senior officer, because what he learned, the custody interference, that's the first thing they hear, and it's a civil matter. So that rookie from now on throughout his career, anytime that he comes to one of these types of calls, that's a civil matter. So it's just a learned behavior. So when we go and we talk to legislators and local officials, we're actually educating them on the law. And like George said, it goes back to the 70s. So, this is where it comes in with you doing the research. You be very assertive. You say, I know my rights. I know the law. It's right here. I carry a copy with me with my orders. And so it's right here in black and white. And if they still deny you, say, well, can you call a special victims unit, which is normally the department that handles these cases. It varies from agency to agency, depending on the size and your state and your sheriffs. Sometimes it's criminal investigative division. So you can actually have them call them up. They have a penal code book always on hand. They can look it up for themselves. You can actually talk to an investigator, and oftentimes they can confirm it. No, it is a felony. You need to write it up. So
Claudia, you should tell them, Claudia just had a really great experience with this record keeping situation. About a year ago, Claudia called somebody and they deliberately misled her. They were condescending, they were belittling, and they completely minimized her situation. Fast forward a year, somebody asked Claudia, did she have a copy of that conversation? And she did. So that turned out to be an accidental, but she was able to go, oh, hold on a minute. I have the recording of that conversation with that particular state official, and it came in very handy.
Right. So always keep, like Kimmy said, you have to document, but it is going to take some patience and time. But if you want to see this through, Some of us, our children they just vary. Some of our children are older, some of them are younger. If you're going to focus on changing the system or impacting the system somehow, this is what you'll learn, how to be a little bit more organized, being a little bit more social, and finding other parents that are passionate about the same thing. A lot of these issues that we're facing, as viewers, it's the exact same thing. It's the denial of access, the parental alienation. What we do is kind of our way of coping with it. We want to be very effective in changing this. So this is why we dive into it, and we do this, and we do this on our spare time. So, it's just something that we want to see change, and we follow through with our elected officials. We have our sheriff who enforces this. We go and help with his campaign. We go and take a toy to an event when he's collecting for certain Christmas events. We go and campaign against a new candidate that's running for judge. She may be, doing something completely different. That's what we do as a group to make that difference, that change.
Yeah, I think George wanted to add something. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I was just to go off of I forgot who was talking about, Derek. So why are you laughing? Oh, okay. So back to business. You do what the court order says. And if the court order says you show up at that police station, you show up at that police station. If it says show up at a Whataburger, you show up at the Whataburger. If it says show up at the courthouse, you show up at the courthouse. Any parent that deviates from that, whether it's a agreement or whatever, you're going to have a hard time in civil court or enforcing it on the federal level. I mean, on the local law enforcement level, right? Because the court order is the bare minimum. So if y'all can't agree or whatever, right, it's going to be thrown at you. Well, I didn't agree, and it's going to go back and forth. And I have a text message back and forth. The safest thing to do, show up at the time you're supposed to be there. Don't be late. Show up 5 minutes early. Be at the location at the time they tell. They're not going to show up or whatever. Still go there at that location. If they tell you to meet at another location, no. Let's just follow the court order. Let's just do it the correct way. Let's just follow the court order, right? Because again, if you go somewhere else, okay, that's going to knock you out of an enforcement on the civil side, because the judge is going to say, well, I told you to show up at the police station at 6 o'clock. Why did you want to show up at the Burger King? Why did you want to show up at 1 o'clock? I told you 6 o'clock, right? So it's very important that along with documentation, you're going to have to document, I was there at that time, and these are my witnesses, and have it like that. When you start getting into parental alienation, this is, I believe, the foundation as to where it starts. I mean, other than starting in the home where they start talking bad about the other parent, starting to keep your kids, I know in just in some of the things that I've experienced was, hey, look, let's trade Easter for this extra day. And I was trying to co-parent. I was trying to do what's right. And it came down on me. They didn't give me my extra weekend. And so it started right there, and then it started trickling, and it started getting bigger and bigger, right? So it's important that you always obey what the court order says, and you can't go wrong from that. So don't deviate, always stay. I know it's hard because you're trying to co-parent. There's a lot of us parents that say, well, I'm just trying to co-parent, and I'm trying to, minimize, all the fighting, and a lot of us took the high road. But and I know Kimmy can talk about narcissistic parents and parents that, just want to, I guess this is all about control. So if they know that they can control you with that child, you're going to have to stick up for yourself. And it sucks that you have to fight with police. You have to fight with the DA. You have to fight with your ex just to have this relationship with your child. You can do that. You can do everything we're doing. You can join our Zooms. You can learn from us, or you can just pay an attorney and get wrapped up in $100,000 in legal fees and be in the same spot, right? You're going to have to learn how to read the laws, and you're going to have to learn to defend yourself. And that's just
So,
how it
George,
goes.
like, don't give the false hope that if you can write a check for $100,000, you win, because that's simply not the case. I wrote a check for $100,000 and I lost. Claudia wrote a check for close to $100,000 and had everybody on her side and still lost. So you cannot, do not think that because you can throw money at the problem, you will automatically win, because it's just simply not the case. We have enough people in the group who have spent enough hundreds of thousands of dollars to know that money sometimes cannot buy the justice you are entitled to. And that's another thing. Claudia mentioned earlier that we meet with judges if we feel like those judges are going to possibly be good for the cause. One of the individuals that we had the pleasure of meeting was somebody really high up in our local local Democrats of San Antonio. And it was very, very interesting because her position was that she thought that criminals and criminal justice was being bought. And she laid out how she thought criminal justice was being bought in San Antonio. And her and I had a conversation, and I was like, well, that's very, very interesting that that's how you perceive that criminal justice being bought, because our perception is what Claudia said earlier, and that is we are not given the opportunity to buy enough justice if we have not donated to the right campaigns. And so we were able to facilitate a connection for the same long-term goal, and that is to eliminate people in the system who were there to make money off of justice that we all should just be given as a member of the community. And justice shouldn't be something that should be bought or sold, but it has gotten there. So I don't want to give anybody the false hope that you've got $1 million and you might win, because sometimes that just doesn't work either.
Thank you so much. You guys feel free to jump in. I'm going to try to scroll through the question and see if we can pick up the question for parents. And parents, if you have questions, please let us know in the chat room. We'll try to do as much as we can. I know I lost a lot of questions earlier on, and I will figure out how to scroll it back. But I'm going to start from this point where Russ said that he's definitely interested in joining and helping. Katie said true that, so I guess she agreed with something someone said. I'm not sure what point this was. Jennifer said, yes, it has been too much anxiety. We get this. We really get this, you guys. As parents, we know what you're going through. We have experiences. We know how traumatizing this is. Fisher said, they keep giving me supervised visitation, and my ex got custody in Guam, where we met and married and divorced after he fled with my kid. Next thing I know, I fight for 2 years, and trial finally came, and I was sick, and so I went back home to LA. So it seems like you never end up having your day in court, Fisher. So I'm sorry to hear that. Monica said, what if you have a safety plan and it's not being upheld by Child Protective Agency, and the police didn't arrest the abuser and place the kids with the abuser? Okay, this is not a custody interference situation. This is to do with the system failed to protect the child. I wonder if you guys have any comments on this, but it said, what if you have a safety plan and it's not being upheld by the Child Protective Services and the police didn't arrest the abuser, but place the kids with the abuser?
Yeah, again, in our group, we're interference with child custody. That's our specialty. That's our niche. That's what we do, right? And it's hard because we get a lot of parents that come in, they want child support help. They want help on their specific case. And we're not lawyers. We don't teach law. Okay. All we do is read it and tell you where to find it and, what we think it means to us. So, with those, there's so many questions in there, pertaining to that case. We do know that CPS does lie. We do know that CPS might try to bully you and take the children away, whether they place them where they should go or they shouldn't go. We know that. We know there's a huge issue with CPS, but at the same time, what I've had to tell people is the only way to carry our advocacy is that we stand firm on following all judicial orders. Anytime we're not going to tell you to keep the child. We're not going to advocate that you keep the child. We advocate that you do things correctly within the law, because then we have more to stand on. If we start telling parents to break the law, go against court orders, okay, now it's going to look bad on the group. It's going to say, these guys are just, just a bunch of, upset parents that they didn't get their way, in civil court. And we get it a lot. There's groups out there, there's domestic violence groups that actually really, really, truly hate our group. And I don't know why. We help mothers, we help fathers. They've said that we're abusers. We're all abusers. They told Derek that he was late on his child support, which he wasn't. They label us all just because I don't know if they're jealous of our group or what, but we help mothers, we help fathers, we'll help anybody who's trying to follow the judicial order, and that's it. And that's the best way to put it.
I would add, let me add, so we get a lot of parents, a lot of folks with CPS wrapped up in their case one way or another. So one of the things that we've done as an advocacy group, we've brought in specialists that this is their forte, this is their strength, this is what other advocacy agencies, other nonprofits, and we've held seminars for our parents that have CPS questions. And we interact and help out other nonprofit organizations just the same. So if they have need information or some educational piece about the interference with child custody, they come to us. And if we have questions about CPS or put on a seminar or a tutorial for our parents that have CPS cases, these are the kind of interactions that you're going to need throughout these different states, and partnerships, right? You're going to want to network and partnership with these individuals so you can team up together. Claudia.
Yeah, so something I wanted to mention also, when we hear from all these different parents, whether it's CPS or child support or interference with child custody, you're dealing with state agencies. You as a citizen have a right to public records. If you don't know how CPS works or how they investigate a case, hey, put a public records request. I want your policy and procedure. I want to know how your investigative process works. You have a right to request that so that you can understand. A lot of parents get these letters where they've made a determination or a finding. If it's not in your favor, there's usually an appeal process. You need to follow through and understand your rights. That's the whole point of how we're doing this, is that we're researching. Well, they didn't do this and they didn't do that. Well, what did you do? That's the question. What did you do to try to fix this or resolve this? Because, they can make a decision, but are you going to accept that decision? Or you're going to research and question that decision and possibly overturn that decision, whether maybe you didn't submit something, you can provide some other form of evidence, or you can find a fault in an investigative report because this is what your policy says, but you didn't do that. So again, this is on you as an advocate for yourself. You are your biggest advocate. And when you don't question, you don't research, that's kind of where your outcome lies. But it doesn't have to be that way, though. And that's what we've learned, is to be calm and assertive. I mean, honestly, personally, I would accept what I was told. And then when I would look it up, I'm like, why didn't they tell me this option? Why didn't they give me this option when it was there? So from now on, when anyone tells me no, show me why the answer is no. Where does it say that? And if you don't know, then point me in the right direction of someone else that can explain it better, because I'm going to question it until it's a final no. So again, as parents, as advocates, a lot of these questions are, my case, they treated me this way, and this is okay, but what did you do about it? That's the question. What are you doing to change your outcome? And I'm sorry for being harsh, but a lot of these questions end up being about personal, your personal case. And what George mentioned earlier, there is no fixing this as a whole if you continue to kind of just harp on your personal case. Let's get to the root of the problem, the system part.
That's
And how to
exactly
fix
right.
it.
That's exactly right. I want to emphasize everything that she just said, emphasize it completely. So I'm the lone soldier who actually had a great experience with CPS. So CPS came in and said, that is clearly an alienation tactic he's using. And if I could follow through with charges on him, I would file charges on him. So yes, CPS has good people. CPS has bad people. We have good amicus, we have bad amicus, we have good guardian ad litems, we have bad guardian ad litems. And yes, you can find yourself in a position exactly like I am. I have a situation where I am systematically sitting back and watching a child being abused, and there's no place for me to report it to. There's no place. I have no guardian ad litem. CPS won't take it. The police won't do anything. So are there situations where you just literally have to sit handcuffed and watch the child be abused? I am sorry to say that in some situations the answer is yes, but do everything that you can to make sure that everybody who is involved knows that you know. So let's say, for example, we have one person in the group, a small child. They had a tracking monitor stuffed in a shoe and it was hurting the child's foot. And clearly an extreme situation. They weren't going to be able to do anything. They told the police said, oh, well, just take it out, child, be fine, blew them off, just the same story. But what needs to happen is that incident, amongst all 5,000 other instances that continuously happen with the child, need to be meticulously documented. And I told both of the parents, I need firsthand accounting in an affidavit format. You guys sign exactly what happened. Remember, an affidavit is exactly only what you know, what you saw with your eyes, your exact experience. Write it down within 24 hours of it happening and file it into your case at the courthouse if you haven't opened. It's a free document. You can do it online for free. And when the time comes for you to say, Your Honor, here's what's happened, you can go back to an affidavit that you wrote within 24 hours of the incident and absolutely be able to show the judge. And if you have your e-file set up where it copies everybody, opposing counsel is going to get a copy of that affidavit and go, oh my God, what did you do this weekend? At some point in time, opposing counsel can be held accountable for allowing all of the instances to happen. So be meticulous in your record keeping. Spend $5 on a notary to notarize that affidavit. Learn how to use e-file yourself. Another thing that I noticed on that is lawyers do not always send you a copy of documents that they've filed on your behalf. Please be sure to make sure you, every time something happens in your case, ask your lawyer, can I get a copy of that? Can I get a copy of that? Make sure you keep a copy of everything because you never know when your relationship with that lawyer is going to end and you will have no idea where in the case that you are.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really, really amazing. Okay, there's a few questions about different groups in different states. So, guys, and for this particular group, later on, the team here is gonna check out the comments in that you are leaving, and they will give you links for all other states. Wherever you are, just let them know. If you're looking for your particular state, just let us know which state you are in, and they will respond to your question with the specific link for your state. So there are over 30 states now. How many states?
There's about 36, and the idea is just to get them off the ground. I'm hoping to have the other 14 by the first of the year, but the idea is to hand them off to an advocate, a very active advocate that can take on the duty and just mimic what we're doing in Texas to get everybody, you know, on the same page nationwide, because this law is in every state. Again, could be a misdemeanor, it could be a felony. There's different variations because of your state statutes, but it's the idea of banding together, you know, to go after the problem and joining your efforts.
So parents, be a bit patient. So if you are in a state that the group is new, there may not be a lot of information yet, but be a part of that group anyway, because this is a part of building this up. So there are some states that are a lot more active, but some states are still kind of new. So just be patient there. But let us know which state you are in, and then they will help you out with that. Okay, David said he's in Ontario, Canada, and police won't get involved unless the court order has a specific clause making the order police enforceable. All they would do is putting emails into an incident report. Children's services won't get involved because they are not trained in parental alienation abuse. So yeah, this is an interesting comment. I'm not familiar with the law in Canada about this. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar, you can comment on this. But I do want to say something about what he mentioned here about the court order. If you guys are still fighting in court to try to get a court order, this is a good time to be aware of how specific you should get when it comes to getting your court order. Really trying to spell out every little details as possible, trying to make, you know, really, because you will find that if you have something that written in there, it makes your life so much easier. I think you guys nodding your head, so go ahead and add anything you want to add to that.
No,
Well,
I'm sorry. I just wanted to harp on that. You need specifics, because otherwise there's going to be loopholes, and you need to close those loopholes. It's good to have other advocates sometimes go over your order, because we've kind of been there and we can know what's missing, what's not missing. This is going to come up later on. What happens if you move? What happens when the child gets older? So the idea, and it's helped me, is have someone else read the language. That's just me.
Great, thank you. Georgie was saying something.
So in the state of Texas, they have the immunity clause, and it says any peace officer may use reasonable efforts to enforce the order. That's in every court order in the state of Texas, and it's highlighted, and not highlighted, but it's in big bold letters. Any law officer or peace officer in the state of Texas may use reasonable efforts. Parents or cops will get on scene and they'll say, "What do you want me to do? You want me to arrest the mother?" No, I'm not asking for that. You want me to take the kids from the mother? I'm not asking for that either. I said, I'm asking for reasonable efforts. Reasonable efforts include writing an offense report for interference with child custody and telling her about it. Telling her, hey, look, this is a criminal matter. You can go to jail. A lot of officers are going to tell you, we can't get involved with that because it's a civil matter. I want everybody to turn to that page in your court order, highlight it, circle it, put a big old red star next to it, do whatever, and say, sir, that's absolutely not true. It stipulates right here, you can use reasonable efforts, and reasonable efforts include educating the parent on the penal code, interference with child custody, retention in violation of a court order or judgment, and telling her the consequences. And then if she still doesn't turn the child over, then write a criminal complaint. So again, if you're in this group or you're following this group because you want to learn how to lock up your ex, this isn't the group for you. Our main objective is how to just see our child with our court order. So to the gentleman that says that there's certain stipulations that have to be put in Canada. Again, we don't know all the states, much less countries, on what they do or what their laws are. But I can tell you that that's one of those things that I tell you that law enforcement's going to tell you anything and everything just to get you out of their face. We, as Claudia said before, we've done all the public information. It's about 1,000 a month here just in San Antonio, the 13th largest city in the United States. So it's bigger everywhere else, larger, probably a bigger problem elsewhere. But law enforcement is going to tell you whatever they can just because they've been trained that way. And we hit on that topic as well. So another thing that we educate parents on is how to combat everything they say. You know, they're going to tell you a child isn't missing because they're probably with the other mom, the other parent, or they're probably with mom. And that's absolutely false. If you look up Texas state law, missing child's laws, you'll see that it doesn't say in there that a child can't be missing if they're with mom. We know that 99.9% of all kidnappings in the United States are done by someone from the immediate family. The whole stereotypical 1980s, there's a white van with a guy holding a bag of candy, waiting to pick up little children. It's statistically, it's wrong, right? It doesn't exist. Another thing I like to tell parents is, and I like to tell police officers, well, she's saying you abused that child. Sir, there is no logic into me wanting and fighting to see my child to just want to turn around and beat him up. And I always make this comment, and I always think it's funny because it can be construed a couple ways. And I know that lawyers and everybody is, did you hear what George said? But if I wanted to beat up little kids, I would go to the park and beat up little kids, right? There's no logic into getting my child and just turning around and beating them up, you know, especially after all these hoops, everything we're doing, talking to legislators, going to Austin, pulling public information reports, talking to police, educating the District Attorneys Association. There's no logic into, oh, I got my child, guess what? I'm just going to beat them up. And right, there's these parents need to learn how to stand their ground. And another common thing that we see is that another way to bar a parent from picking up their child is filing a criminal trespass. And this is something that if y'all know my case, I was arrested for criminal trespass with a valid judicial order. It took 2 years. I went through 2 years of the criminal system with an attorney. And I told him I had court orders by another judge telling me to be there. How are you going to arrest me for knocking on the door when the judge told me to go and knock on the door? And so again, it's stuff like that you know, we can help with. But you know, when it comes down to, you know, following the orders, again, stay on the street, call for help if you think there's going to be issues. The street is public property, so they can't remove you, they can't tell you, they can't criminally trespass you, and they can't throw you in jail. Call from the street, tell them, hey, look, you know, I want to pick up the child, but I don't want to be criminally trespassing, so I'd rather you just do it. Plus, that makes them a witness. You can subpoena that officer to go and say, hey, look, he called me to the street. He told me to go and press the button. I'm the one who did it. And then he's having all that interaction. Ask him. And I think every city has body cams on their police officers by now, right? So you can always request them to turn on their body cam, and then you can request that body cam footage through public information requests and use it in your civil suit and whatever.
Thank you. And actually, I do see this. A lot of parents don't realize that they can request this sort of information. Like, for example, if you have a case with CPS, you can request the record of your case, what they're writing about you, what they're working on. You can request the body cam from the police. You can request a lot of information. So parents just sometimes just don't realize that they can, and that there are things out there that you can do. I'm going to continue with the question. I see Ed have a question that said, if she says she isn't coming and I can get them. I feel like I'm missing part of the question, Ed. So if there are more to your questions, could you just put it all in one place, and then I'll see if I can pick it up later on. Tara said that $175,000 and still counting. Yeah, just like Kimmy said, it's not money. Money, it's sometimes just not enough. I've seen, I talked to very wealthy people who spend over $3 million and still lose their children. It's not a money thing, unfortunately. Nidhi said, thank you. Fisher. Okay, Brittany said, I haven't been able to get a court date in Austin County, Texas. I have paid for an attorney and called the district clerk every week, and we're not even in the system. I don't understand what you mean by you're not even in the system. I assume that you have filed something, your attorney have filed something. So you should have a case number, no? Do
Well,
you guys have any
and
comment on
that's
this?
one of the things that like we were talking about is some of us are paying or have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, for lawyers to do things. And so we've also had to do research on the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct on what lawyers can and can't do. We've looked up judicial canons, what judges can and can't do. And that's one thing that she probably needs to bring up to the Texas State Bar is that, hey, look, this, and I could probably pull it up, but basically your lawyer must diligently, zealously, fight for your rights. And if you're giving him money and he's not, entering anything into the case or trying to get a court date, that's a grievanceable offense, especially if you've given him money. But that's something, again, you would have to dive deeper into, her case and everything else. But, if you could say that she gave him money, he has a responsibility to, have that case be heard.
Yeah, and almost every court has a record system that you have some access to. You might have to pay money, but if your lawyer have filed something, you have a case number. You may not have a court date, but you should have something in the system. So there's something that doesn't sound right here. Something is missing in your question.
But just to give her a little bit of validity, it's not the first time that I've heard someone's entire case file has been missing from a courtroom. So this goes back to what we've said all along. And Claudia said very specifically, do not accept no. Why can't I have my record? Where is my record? How am I going to get my record? And yes, is this situation completely arduous and should it be this difficult? Absolutely not. But the buck has to stop with you. And if you think that you're the only person that this has happened to with respect to being able to not garner a copy of your record, you're not. But it could end if you're the one who says, where's my record? And I'm going to go down and I'm going to fight for it and figure it out.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good reminder. I see Mariska said, I have been told countless times by my lawyer in Australia, by lawyers in Australia, that it is not a justice system, it is a legal system. I think that's a pretty good comment, it's a pretty good statement. We have to stop thinking that the system will just grant us justice that we deserve. It doesn't just kind of landing out there, and that we can't just blindly having faith that the truth will prevail. It doesn't work that way. It is a legal system. There are procedures, there are loopholes, there are, there are lazy people, there are people that are corrupted, there are people that incompetent. There's a lot of different things that are going on. So yeah, you do have, I think that's a good statement. You do have to fight for your rights. You do have to put your foot down. You do have to get yourself informed and educated about what the system is about and where your rights land and things like that, and really follow up with that and don't give up, for sure. Colin said, I think that I just heard that Kimmy went the criminal route while also involved in a civil court case. Can you talk a little bit about how you manage both? And by the way, the two are not at all mutually exclusive. It's not like, oh, you do pursue the criminal side and then you can't do the civil, or if you have a civil case you can't pursue the criminal. The two are completely separate. They can running in parallel or before or after each other. It's yeah, so it's definitely the two are separate things and they can both exist. Can we go ahead and, or anyone wanted to comment on this?
Sure, just briefly. So while my civil divorce case was still going and battle for the kids and all of that was still happening, during that proceeding, there was an instance where my ex committed felony perjury enticement, endangerment, and two others. I can't remember what they were at the top of my head. So I followed the procedure and I called SVU and I said, I want to file criminal complaints on these items. They were all very valid items. He agreed to the validity. But then after all of his due diligence was done and affidavits were done, they declined to take them as a result of a current civil litigation. So that should not be happening. Just like, I can't even remember who said it at the top, you can't pick and choose the laws that you're going to enforce. And we're seeing this to a degree that I never thought that we would see it with respect to the Chad Reed case, because the reason why there hasn't been an arrest in Chad Reed's case is because it's a civil case. I don't know how you can commit murder and call that civil, but it is a cultural, it is a huge situation that we see all over Texas. And until we stop that from happening, in what planet do we live in that if you have an open divorce case, you can go rob a liquor store? Oh, well, you know what? He's got a civil case going on, so we just gonna go ahead and let him rob a liquor store. No, that's not what's supposed to happen. But is it happening? Absolutely. And so like Claudia also said, even though at that time the SVU opted to not take those valid criminal felony charges to the DA, I can still pursue those, and I am going to. And in my situation, I have an appeal getting filed. And so now that I no longer have open civil litigation, I can now pursue those criminal files again, which I plan on doing. So unfortunately, if you have a valid criminal complaint and you're actively involved in a civil complaint, chances are you will get blown off. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't try. You try to do it no matter what. And if you get turned down, then you try again, and you don't stop until you receive what you believe you deserve, you should be receiving. And everybody has their own threshold, how far they're willing to take something. But if you don't keep going, I had this conversation today. You only lose if you stop. If you're continuing to go, you're still in the game. You knock on every door, and if they don't open, you just leave that door and you go on to the next one. The game goes for as long as you're willing to knock. You just don't stop. You might have to knock on 100 doors, but that 101 door, that's going to be the one that opens. Don't stop.
I know that another person in the group here, I don't know if that person's comfortable sharing, but I know that there's another person in this group here that pursue both civil and criminal at the same time. Or if anyone want to just comment in general without the specific about that. Okay, and if not, then we'll just continue.
What was the beginning of it?
This is a discussion about one of the question in the chat is saying that in the chat room is saying that he was surprised that you could pursue the criminal side and the civil side both at the same time. So he didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, so like Kimmy said earlier, and I think Claudia said it as well, there is nowhere in the law that we have found where it says that you must seek civil remedy before enforcing a criminal act. And in fact, I was reading this, one of the members that was watching right now sent me a letter from Amarillo Police Department. And if I could read just a few bits of it, I think it's interesting because all day long, somebody who's educated could beat this letter down. Because the differences of the civil and criminal processes, we believe that the better result will usually result from the civil process rather than the criminal process regarding these types of offenses. Okay, it's not up to them whether they believe it or not, right? Amarillo PD, you enforce the law, the criminal law. I don't care what you believe or whether you believe it should go to civil court. That's not up to you. The legislators have already legislated this as a felony. It is not child custody incident, but it is in the best interest of the child that they have access and possession. So are we holding, the best interest of justice over the best interest of the child? That's something to ask. The Amarillo Police Department will present the criminal case to the DA's office, will review a case involving an alleged violation of 2503 under the following circumstances. The accused in the incident has a previous to this incident, has been found to interfere with child custody. And then the next bullet point, it says, after the accused has been found to have violated a previous complaint of interference with child custody by a judge in the civil proceeding, and all civil remedies have been exhausted, a criminal investigation may be considered. Now, we've seen that in Harris County as well. But again, it doesn't say that you must seek civil remedy. So now, again, this is a felony. They can't deny under your constitutional right and your Bill of Rights to tell you you can't bring a criminal complaint before a magistrate of the county. That is basic, right? And just let me just get to the last bullet point. All cases where there is clear and immediate danger to any of the children involved. So nowhere in the law does it say that you must have immediate danger before you can file interference with child custody. Nowhere. The law says retention in violation of a court order or judgment. So when they start sending you letters like this is where you need to bite back. You need to fight, you need to educate yourself, and you need to bite them back and say, whoa, you're violating my rights now. You're telling me I can't file this. Amarillo PD should have never sent this to that parent. They should have sent it to the DA and let the DA do their job and investigate. Amarillo is now making excuses as to why they don't want to enforce it. And I think we need to do something in Lubbock about this issue as well.
Claudia, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's like it said, they can't pick and choose what laws they're going to enforce. So if it was burglary, are they going to say, oh, you have to go back to family court? If it was assault, oh, you're in the middle of litigation, I'm sorry, you're going to have to take that to family court. No, they're totally separate burdens of proof. So you can pursue motion for enforcement in civil litigation if that's what you're going to do, but this is a criminal side. This is totally separate. And George best explained it to me with the whole O.J. Simpson thing. They took him to criminal court and it didn't work out. Then the family took him to civil and they won. Totally separate.
Yeah, in civil court, it's preponderance of evidence is and this is going to differ in every state, right? The preponderance of evidence is 51% of what they believe is true. That's how they get away with it, right? Clear and convincing evidence or beyond a reasonable doubt, that's criminal court, right? So again, what Claudia was saying, that there's two different, proofs.
Burdens of proof.
Two different burdens of proof. She's absolutely correct. And so again, them referring you back to civil court, you need to stop that right in the tracks. And you need to say, I want you to show me in your policy, I want you to show me in the DA's policy, all through public information, where it says I must seek civil remedy. Show me. And when parents start biting back like that, now they don't know what to do. They've never had parents like us that are educating ourselves and coming after them. Go ahead, Derek.
I just wanted to provide a recap for everybody. I don't know how many parents versus advocates we actually have, but just to encourage everyone, and what does our team actually do? What are some of the accomplishments? What are some of the things and ideas and thoughts that you can take back to your states if you're an advocate, or if you're a parent, just getting started and are interested in becoming an advocate. Again, 2503, Texas 2503, we've done 3 major processes. We have a blueprint process for out on premise for parents. step-by-step procedure on the do's and don'ts and what documentation you should have. We have the data research, open records communications request, which includes of templates, pre-designed, so you can select your audience and stay professional and then still request the information of them. You can develop a legislative team, people well-spoken, well-versed, again, that understand the topic of interest. These will also be your individuals that do drafting and testimonies and will bring people to testify for certain bills when you go to your session. We do how-to workshops and videos to help parents and advocates alike. We one-on-one advice and direction. So a lot of the advocates, they will actually go meet parents. Kimmy talked to it earlier. She spoke about it, helping a parent at in a meeting with an attorney. We also do on-site, something that you could do if you could, have some time to dedicate. If you wanted to help parents out and you were an advocate, you can think about meeting at the substation and being that liaison, being that mediator, and trying to communicate, because sometimes parents can't, right? Maybe it's a skill set a soft skill set they don't have, or maybe they're just too emotional because it's all fresh, the whole thing of it all. But advocates can step in between and kind of communicate as that liaison. You also want to do court watching, which is extremely important for accountability. You want to, a lot of court sessions now are via Zoom, which makes it easy to get court watchers. You want to hold people accountable, especially if a parent comes to you and it says that they're having a hard time in their local area. That the opposing counsel and opposing party might be some sort of relation to that judge. Like, we all know that's not supposed to happen, but it does. Some of it, the courtroom antics are about who you know. And, regardless of the money you have, it might just be that simple fact. So court watching is really important. That's something an advocate can do, or a parent can do to help each other out. Campaigning and supporting the right individuals. Meet with your local, state, and federal authorities, your elected officials. Again, they work for us. They work for we the people. So there's no bigger feat than putting the right people in office in positions of power to make these decisions, whether it's a legislator, a House representative, a judge, a DA, a sheriff. Get active in your politics. And it's not about red or blue. If you're here in the States, it's about red, white, and blue, and what we can do together as one, right? For the people. So sometimes the party that best aligns with your cause may not be typically somebody who you support. And we don't get into the politics of it all, but we do align with candidates that are most likely to promote and advocate for certain like-minded causes. And then last but not least, as you're developing your team and your advocates and your groups, media blast to hold people accountable. We work with investigative journalists. We've worked with different news stations in the past. We ourselves are on every social media platform, to include a YouTube channel. Kimmy's worked really hard on the website. We've got that up and going. Claudia does a lot of the reporting, linking, and surveys that we do, and a lot of the information that we collect, and that goes hand in hand together. So holding people accountable, a lot of times, if your local municipality, maybe it's a smaller community, maybe it's a smaller town, kind of a good old boy network, or and a parent's not getting any traction with any part of the process, you'd be surprised about how a little bit of public awareness and a little bit of media attention, how far that can go to change things. So these are all just thoughts and ideas. If you're developing or want to add it to your toolbox, these are things that we do as a team.
Yeah, and on that note, I want to encourage. Sometimes you get the feeling to mention something because somebody out there is just waiting to hear this. If you consider yourself a simple person, you go to work, you take care of your kids, and that's it. And you feel like you might be judged because you're Southern, or because you're West Side, or because English is your second language, or because you're broke, or any reason that you're thinking that we might not take you seriously or not help you, I want you to get that out of your mind. And I want you to know that I do not care what you look like, where you're from, how much money you have, how you talk. I don't care about any of that. If you DM me directly and you need my help, I will help you. So just know that there is not a certain class of people that our group helps. You can reach out, doesn't matter who you are.
Thank you so much for that. I want to just add a little bit of clarification for parents who, just in case they're not familiar with it. I know earlier Kimi mentioned the word SVU. SVU stand for Special Victim Unit, which is the particular section in the law enforcement that's supposed to take care of these cases. Another word that I think she used, DA, stand for District Attorney Office. The other things that Reverend Derek just talked about, which is court watching. Now it sounds complex, but actually anybody can do this. Court watching is simply you are sitting there in a court proceeding as a witness. You don't have to let anybody know that you're a witness. You simply just turn up and be there. So if a parent said, hey, I need a court watcher, here's a Zoom link, you can say, yeah, I can, if you're available, you can just simply log onto that Zoom link and be there. Most of the time, the court hearings is a open public record thing. So anyone is allowed to be there. You don't have to announce to anyone. You don't need a reason. You don't have to justify why you are there. But simply having other people sitting there in the, even before COVID, having people sitting in the courtroom physically or in the Zoom call. The point of it is that the judges and the lawyers, because they see that there are other people there who could potentially be witness to their behavior, that it makes them a little bit more conscious about how they treat the parents, and that it kind of forces them to be more fair and more, clear and specific about what they do, instead of just feeling like, well, the only person in the Zoom call is a parent and they can get away with it and they can just shut the parent down. So having court watcher, it sounds so complicated, but simply just, if you have time, you just turn up and be there. It's very simple as that.
I just wanted to touch on Mr. Season's comment. He's asking, what about children that are 16 and 17? How do you share time if they don't want to go? You cannot make them go in the car, and that's what my ex says. You can't make them see me, so I just accept it then and not see them. Okay, so this is, I have children of this age and I've gone through it, so I can specifically speak on this topic. And I think, some of us also have children this age that can also chime in on it. But I have a younger son, he's 6 years old, and I'm fighting this with him and his mother. Now, everybody asks, why are you fighting so hard? Well, because I don't want him to be 16 or 17 and having to go through this. I want him to know that, hey, on these days you come with dad, whether you like it or not. There's a happy medium to working with teenagers. Okay, they're going through puberty, testosterone, estrogens levels are just flying everywhere, right? So with children my age, or that age, I'm sorry, you have to handle it delicately. That's where your communication with your child is. You can't just go in and strong arm your child and say, you're coming with me whether you like it or not, right? So if my 14-year-old daughter wants to go to high school homecoming, that's a discussion that her and I should have, not between her and her mother, but say, hey, look, honey, I know you have some school projects coming up, because that's when they're in high school. Those are the best years of their lives, going to homecoming and prom and all that. And at me as a father, I don't want to impede and take that away from them and say, hey, you're going to come see me for, on your prom weekend. That would be just devastating. They're going to hate me or whatever. So it's important that you get with them and say, hey, look, why don't we try for another weekend? Could you talk to your mom? If your mom agrees, let's do that, and try to make it upbeat where it sounds good. If you force the children At that age, when they're missing a football game or a soccer game or an important event, a quinceañera, here in Texas, they're going to remember it. And they're going to hold more, I guess, anger towards you. So it's important that you talk to your child and tell them, hey, look, I love you. I also want to see you. I understand you have projects at school or you have activities, that you want to go to. Can we make it up? What can we do? Can you talk to your mom to see if she'll agree to, maybe 2 weekends in a row, or can we have extra time in the summer? I think that's very important. Now, law enforcement, again, this is where law enforcement comes in. I think law enforcement should mitigate or facilitate a happy medium when you're going to these cases. And law enforcement can be very effective if they go and talk to the child. And most of the time, law enforcement that I've noticed, before have gone to my children and said, hey, look, you should really go to your dad's, or your mom can get in trouble. But when law enforcement kicks back and they say it's just a civil matter, I understand where Mr. Season says it. I don't get to see my children. They tell me I can't make them go. In the state of Texas, we have 2 case laws, ex parte Morgan and ex parte
Garcia?
Morgan and ex parte
Is it
Rosser.
Garcia? Yes.
Rosser. And both of them kind of mimic each other, because one is where the mom was held in contempt because she didn't encourage the relationship for a teenage child. Basically, dad showed up, mom showed up, and mom says, well, she can't get out of the car. Oh, well. And so the judge actually held her in contempt because she didn't encourage it. Rosser, I believe, was the father, showed up to the location and says, hey, look, I encouraged her. I asked my daughter to go, but she's a teenager. I can't physically pick her up and move her, but I did encourage her. So that's the 2 difference in the cases, is one encouraged and didn't go to a contempt or didn't get thrown in jail, and the other one did. The other one didn't advocate for her child to have equal time. But when you get into older children, and I know Claudia and Kimmy, can pretty much, it's a delicate situation. And then, depending on.
No, George, it's exactly what you said. You started your comments by saying people were asking you, why are you fighting so hard for Christopher?
Right.
And you're fighting so hard for Christopher so you don't get into a position with Christopher that you're into with the 2 older ones.
Correct.
And so I started by saying mistakes that I've made. What mistakes did I make that I would do totally differently? And those mistakes are exactly what George is talking about. You want to do everything possible you can to not be complacent to having any of your rights violated while the child is young, or if the divorce is just happening. Because in my instance, it happened when my son was 13, he's 16. I may never be able to get him back out of it. So you have to take a very aggressive position to not let anything come between you and your child before they get to that age of 13, because once they're there, that's when the manipulation can escalate, and then everybody jumps on board. Oh, well, the kid doesn't want to go. And then it becomes another minimization, like I was talking about earlier, of your rights. So who looks like a disgruntled parent if the police shows up and the 13-year-old's like, I don't want to go? Then you look crazy.
And the
But if
parental
you-
alienation sets in. Well, your
The
dad wants to
parental
take you. Your dad
Correct.
wants to take you away this weekend, and you have a soccer game, and he's just trying to hurt you, and that's where that stuff seeps in.
Yeah. So just advocate heavily for your rights before this sets in.
Thank you so much. We have run over 2 hours, so I think we're going to be ending here. But I wanted to let parents know that if you have questions, please leave it in the comment, because I'm going to ask the team a favor to follow up with, and I know there's a lot of specific state things as well. So if you guys could help going in and give parents a link and any other information, there's people that want to volunteer as well. So yeah, any questions that you guys have, please leave in the comment. I wanted to talk about a few things briefly. One is that what you are hearing today coming from, these are the advocates, these are parents just like you. So what they are sharing is the learning that they are that coming from their experience. These are not professional advice, these are not legal advice, they are not therapists, psychologists. These are just meant to be sharing experiences. So some of the things may work, some of the things may not work. So don't take this as, you know, in any way, like just take it and see how, if it works for you. The key things is that we want to encourage you to consider your rights and your option and fight for your children. That's the main thing. The other thing I wanted to say is tomorrow I'm going to come back and talk about 5 common ways that targeted parents accidentally contribute to parental alienation. I never want to be a victim blamer. I know that you are a victim, but sometimes because we are not aware of it, sometimes we contribute to the problem. So I want to talk about 5 common ways that targeted parents may contribute to that. So please come back. We're going to do a live event tomorrow. And then before we go, if I could get each of you guys to leave the last words of anything that you wanted to leave, please go ahead.
Sure. I just want y'all to remain hopeful. And again, you're your number one advocate. You're going to be your number one advocate before your attorney, you know, in your own personal case, in your own relationship with your child. So there are going to be things that are going to be required of you, whether you're going to take this beyond, you know, that no, or you relearning how to communicate with your child, you know, you reading a book on something that could help. But that's going to be up to you. And a lot of us have done that. And, you know, our relationship with our children are all different, but it's up to you on how you want to approach that.
Thank you.
I'll go. Self-care. What did you ask yourself every week? What did I do to take care of myself this week? I'm always very guilty of that. I leave myself for last all the time. So always try to do the best you can to take care of you first.
I guess my words of wisdom would be knowledge is power and education is key. Although you mentioned we don't hold any professional credentials or titles, many of us in the group as parents and advocates are working, you know, whether we're working our way to law school or we're working our way through the counseling portion of it to get our credentials, constantly building, constantly communicating, and building that toolbox and arsenal so you can speak from a professional standpoint and a platform, not only from a personal experience, but on a professional level as well. So if you are truly passionate about advocacy, you keep developing, keep learning, keep educating, and you're gonna do just fine.
Thank you.
I founded Team 2503, but I couldn't get to where I'm at without this group right here. And I love them a bunch. You know, we've been together a little over 3 years. And I'm reading some of these comments, and I need help in Atlanta. I need help in Canada. I need help, you know, in Virginia. And my solid piece of advice for all of you that are watching is you need to attack the problem. Quit focusing on just your case. The first thing you should do is find somebody that's in your situation on social media. You have social media, reach out. Is anybody having these issues? Get to a DM, talk to them, email them, meet up for coffee, talk, and then find a way to go after the problem. If you talk about your case specifically, you're going to focus on that. You want to look over your case. With that being said, we're extremely busy. We always get things in our comments and DMs and messages and emails. And there's sometimes that we're very, 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 very spread thin. I know that I have 2 phones, and sometimes I got to cut out one of them relating to 2503 because I just need to check out and do self-care for myself. So if we don't get to you in time, we're sorry. We're not avoiding you. But we do have other things. We have our own cases going. So please reach out. Don't be afraid to tackle this problem. There's nothing ethically, moral, or immoral, or unlawful that you're doing. Everything you're doing is great. You're fighting for your children. So those are my pieces of advice. Just keep on rolling. If you can't find anybody in your area, we can try to help you, but it's going to take you to actually do this. And I'll tell you from experience, when I started this page on social media, I started with just 30 people that I found. Hey, let's start a group. And this is where we are today, almost 4 years later. And we're reaching people in Canada. We're reaching people in the UK that are all going through this problem. And the only advice we can pretty much give you is find people that you can work with and attack the problem.
Thank
We
you
all
so
are
much.
capable of doing it. I'm no different from anybody else. I don't have a law degree. I graduated from high school. I got an associate's. I can comprehend what I read. And I went from there. And just be confident. There's every day we talk. Every day this group talks in some sort of form of fashion, whether it's telephone, whether it's text, email. Every day we talk with others in our group. And we have educated ourselves to being almost experts in this field. We have senators that come to us that ask us to help their constituents. And he's a legislator. They legislated the law. And so we have attorneys that come to us. So don't beat yourself down, hold yourself higher, do a lot of self-care, and be able to check out, and just do your own thing.
Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure that this is clear for parents, is that what we have discussed today is specifically to do with cases where you have a custody order. Now, I've seen question and comment in the chat room where parents still don't have a custody order, or they lost their children because of certain situations. In those cases, you really have to fight for your children to get a custody order, because if you don't have it, you can't implement any of the things that we talk about today. So the first thing is you have to have a custody order that say that you can have your child at a certain time. Now, if you don't have it, then you have to look at how to fight it. And so for those, we've done interviews, multiple interviews of multiple lawyers that have been very successful in fighting these different scenarios, false allegations and just a normal custody or parental alienation and things like that. So look up those videos in the videos tab of our Facebook page, Victim to Hero Facebook page. And we can talk more about those cases in other times. But today is specifically for situation where you have a custody order and that custody order is being violated. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for all these guys are here today. You guys, you're amazing. You really have a special place in my heart. I love these guys, you guys, seriously, because they have really good heart and they are so resilient and they're so strong and very supportive. So I'm grateful for them. And they are the reason why I fight and I in Texas. This is why I focus in Texas when it comes to legislation. Because if you don't have a good support network in a particular state, it's very hard. I mean, like, I want to change the law everywhere, but it's much harder if you don't get the right support network there. So I'm grateful for these guys, really, and thank you so much for being here today.
I got one more
Yes,
thing.
go ahead, George.
Okay, so what you can do to help, right? What can I do to help? Yeah, we take donations, but that's not my point. My point is, Team 2503 has a YouTube, a TikTok, a Twitter, 2 Facebook pages, a public page, a private page. We have a website, okay? And most of it is under Texas 25.03. Please share. And for those that are in Atlanta, in Virginia, in Canada, share our content. We have a lot of content out there. Share our post and say, are you going through this? That's your fishing line that you're throwing out, looking for somebody. Everybody 60% of the United States right now is under a divorce, right? They get a divorce. 60% of marriages end in a divorce. So somebody knows somebody that's going through something like this. So when you share our content, not only do you get the word out, but you're fishing. You're going to find other people, hey, I'm going to share that. I'm going through that. We had one lady that shared one of our posts, and it was shared like 20,000 times. And we just totally went viral. And that's how we've gotten this big. So for those that are asking, you know, how do I get people to advocate with me? I don't know anybody. Share our content. Ask, are you having these problems? Can we get together? And that's the best way to find people that are in this situation. But you can find us Twitter, Instagram. I know you, Victim to Hero, we're always bouncing off each other, you know. So if y'all need to find us, you know,